Have you ever felt your peace stolen by the smallest thing, a word, a glance, a silence that seemed heavier than thunder? One careless remark, one unexpected delay, and suddenly your mind spins, your chest tightens, your whole day unravels. We live in a world that presses on every weakness, a world that tempts us to react, to flinch, to surrender our calm at the first strike. But the Stoics saw through this. They understood that life will never stop testing us. Storms will come, people will provoke, circumstances will shift without warning. Yet they also knew this: your mind is yours. No one can enter it without your consent. Strength is not in controlling the world, it is in mastering your response to it. This journey is about that mastery, about walking through fire without burning, about holding your center when everything else falls apart. As we step into the first chapter, picture this: a crowded street where noise fills every corner. Horns blare, voices rise, someone shoves past you without apology. Most people would flinch, tense up, feel the day sour instantly. Their peace collapses, not because the world is cruel, but because they handed the world the keys to their emotions. Now imagine another figure in the same storm of chaos. He moves steadily, his face calm, his steps deliberate. People shout, insults fly, delays appear, but nothing changes the rhythm of his walk. He is not numb, he is trained. He carries within him a shield no one else can see. That shield is the mindset of nothing bothers me. Here's where most people get it wrong. They believe calmness means caring less, shutting down, pretending to feel nothing. But the Stoics saw it differently. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He didn't promise that people would stop testing you or that life would be fair. He reminded us that peace is always internal property. It belongs to you unless you give it away. Think back to a moment when someone insulted you in public. Perhaps a coworker mocked you in front of others, or a stranger tossed a sharp word your way. The instinct is to fight back, to defend your pride. Yet what happens if instead you breathe, stay still, and walk away? The insult withers. The crowd remembers your composure more than their provocation, the one who tried to shake you. They stand confused, powerless, staring at someone they cannot control. That is silent strength. That is stoicism in action. The truth is this: people cannot disturb you unless you hand them the permission slip. Every reaction you give is a map of your weaknesses. Lose your temper, and you've just told the world where to press next time. But when you remain still, when you do not flinch, you become unreadable, untouchable. You shift from being an open book to being a fortress. And in that silence, respect begins to gather around you. Consider the leaders history remembers most. They were rarely the loudest in the room. They did not waste their breath explaining themselves to critics or meeting every challenge head-on with fury. They stayed composed. They moved with intent. Their strength was not in how hard they hit back, but in how little they allowed the world to dictate their state. True authority, the Stoics remind us, is quiet. It does not beg for recognition. It commands it through presence. So how do you begin to cultivate this presence in yourself? Start small. Start with the pause. Every time something irritates you, stop. Ask yourself, is this moment worth my peace? The answer, almost always, is no. A rude glance cannot rewrite your values. A delay at the airport does not change your purpose. Gossip whispered about you in some corner of the room does not diminish your worth. These are sparks trying to burn you only if you lean close. Then practice visualization. See yourself in the heat of conflict, someone criticizing you, plans collapsing, the crowd watching. Instead of reacting, picture yourself calm, your breath steady, your gaze clear. The more you rehearse this image, the more your body learns it. Slowly, your nervous system begins to believe that calm is your natural state. And one day, when the storm hits, you will find yourself unmoved. Not because you forced it, but because it has become who you are. Let me share a picture. A man walks through a bustling marketplace. Traders argue, children cry, voices demand his attention. Some try to provoke him, some try to pull him into their noise. Yet he walks on, eyes calm, steps sure, as though he carries a compass no one else can see. He doesn't stop to argue. He doesn't defend himself against every whisper. He simply moves forward. And because he does, others make way. That is presence. That is unshakable confidence. This mindset is not coldness. It is clarity. It does not demand you feel less. It teaches you to anchor deeper than emotion, to root yourself in values stronger than impulse. When you live this way, you stop wasting energy on arguments that change nothing. You stop scattering your spirit in defense of every passing opinion. Instead, you channel your energy into action, into progress, into the mission that actually matters. And yes, you will fail at times. You will snap, lose patience, stumble back into reactivity. But the Stoic way is not perfection, it is practice. Seneca reminded himself daily that failure is not ruin, but feedback. The calm do not collapse under mistakes. They treat them as lessons, as new data, and they adjust. They refine their method and keep walking. That's what separates the steady from the scattered. Over time, something remarkable happens. This mindset stops being something you put on like armor only in moments of crisis. It becomes your very skin. You walk into a room and people feel it. Your presence says more than your words. You don't chase attention, yet eyes turn toward you. You don't demand respect, yet it follows. This is what happens when a person masters their inner world. The outer world bends to the weight of their stillness. So let others rage, let them gossip, let them throw their peace away like coins in the street. You are here to move differently, quietly, intentionally. You are here to embody a strength that is not shaken by noise or stolen by insult. Because when you live as if nothing bothers you, not in pretense but in truth, you gain an edge most never touch. And that edge, my friend, is only the beginning. From here, we step into a deeper field. How stillness itself becomes your greatest strategy. Moving into the second chapter, imagine standing in the middle of a storm. The sky cracks, the wind thrashes, people run for shelter. Yet there you are, still, calm, watching the storm pass, not because you are blind to it, but because you no longer let it rule you. That stillness, that deliberate composure, is the power of emotional detachment. Now think about the strongest people you've ever met. They don't flinch when chaos erupts. They don't collapse when insulted. They don't spiral when plans shatter. They pause, they breathe, then they respond, not with fury, but with clarity. That doesn't come from numbness. It comes from training the mind to stay rooted when everything else shakes. This is what the Stoics called mastery of the self. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." He wasn't dismissing emotion, he was pointing to the trap of becoming its prisoner. Detachment does not mean you feel nothing. It means you no longer hand the wheel to every fleeting surge of anger, fear, or despair. You sit firmly in the driver's seat, and your emotions ride quietly in the back. They are passengers. They are not captains. Here's a simple test. When someone tries to provoke you, insults, accusations, shouts, do you take the bait? Or do you smile inwardly, knowing their power over you exists only if you surrender it? Most people live in reaction, a rude word, and they flare up, a setback, and they crumble. But the Stoic learns another way, to hold his ground, to guard his peace as something sacred, not out of coldness, but out of clarity. Picture this story. A man loses everything, his business collapses, his relationships unravel. From the outside, it looks like ruin. Friends whisper, he's finished. But inside, something different happens. He doesn't beg the world to restore what fell apart. He looks inward. He reminds himself, I still control how I show up. I still command how I think. That truth becomes his anchor. From that stillness, he begins again, sharper, stronger, quieter. This is the hidden strength of detachment, freedom from letting every rise and fall define you. How many dreams have died not because they were impossible, but because emotions got in the way? A flash of doubt, a surge of fear, frustration after one failure. These feelings are weather, passing storms. But if you mistake them for truth, they build walls around you. The Stoic knows better. He watches emotions the way a sailor watches the sea. Waves come, winds change, but panic helps no one. You don't fight the ocean, you learn to navigate it. So how do you practice this? Start by doing nothing. Yes, nothing. When insulted, pause. When provoked, don't leap to defend. Notice what rises in you. Is it anger, shame, fear? Then ask, does this actually change the course of my life, or is it just noise? 9 times out of 10, it's noise. And when you refuse to react, you win a quiet victory. Not the kind people applaud, but the kind that builds unshakable strength inside. Here's another truth the Stoics knew. Detachment becomes easier when you have a clear purpose. When your eyes are fixed on something higher, small irritations lose their grip. You argue less. You explain yourself less, because you know what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Purpose acts like a filter. It teaches you to protect your attention as if it were sacred, because it is. Think about it. Most people feel drained not because life is too heavy, but because they scatter their energy across petty conflicts. They defend themselves endlessly, justify their choices, wrestle with shadows of criticism. No wonder they feel exhausted. But the one who practices detachment stands differently. He is not calm because the world is calm. He is calm because he is. He doesn't seek approval. He doesn't waste breath proving himself. His presence is enough, and often it speaks louder than any words could. Remember this: detachment does not make you a robot. It makes you deliberate. You still feel joy, sadness, even anger, but you don't obey them blindly. You choose. You decide what deserves your energy and what is not worthy of it. Emotions are still there, but they serve your purpose, not the other way around. That is the pivot point. That is the moment when life begins to bend in your favor. Think of a tree with deep roots. Winds rise, storms batter, but the roots hold firm. The tree bends, but does not break. Emotional detachment is that rooting. A strength quiet and unseen, but undeniable. The deeper the roots, the steadier the presence. And building it takes practice, training. You pause when others explode. You breathe when others rage. You remind yourself that your response is always yours to command. Your calm is not borrowed from the world. It is a covenant you make with yourself. Is it easy? No. But it is simple. Every time you choose stillness over chaos, detachment over drama, clarity over impulse, you fortify the muscle of mastery. And that mastery changes everything, because once you stop bleeding energy into reactions, you can pour it into purpose. Once you stop scattering your focus in defending yourself, you can fix it on building yourself. That is the true payoff. Emotional detachment is not withdrawal, it is concentration. It frees you to live at a higher level. So let others panic. Let them argue and collapse under the weight of their moods. You move differently. You move with restraint, with intention, with the quiet edge that comes from not being ruled by storms. And when you live that way, people notice, even if they can't explain why. They feel it. They respect it. At this stage, the lesson is clear. Emotional detachment is not about retreating from life. It is about entering it with strength no mood can steal. And that strength becomes the doorway to something even greater. Because once you master detachment, you discover that presence, not performance, is what earns true respect. Advancing to the third chapter, imagine this. You walk into a room and feel the eyes of strangers resting on you. Some glance with curiosity, others with judgment. A whispered comment, a raised eyebrow, and suddenly your mind is no longer your own. It starts racing, replaying, questioning, worrying about what they think. Tell me, how many times have you lost hours of peace to people who won't even remember your name? Here's where the Stoics deliver a blow that shatters illusions. Most things simply don't matter, not in the long run, not in the frame of a well-lived life. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself daily, you will meet people meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they don't know good from evil. In those words lies a liberating truth. The judgments of others are not chains unless you clasp them on yourself. Think of how often we are trained, almost from childhood, to equate caring with worth. If you care deeply about every opinion, you're sincere. If you react to every jab, you're engaged. But what is that really? It is servitude. It is letting your value hang on the strings of strangers. The more you react, the more you hand them the control that should be yours. Now, picture a different kind of person. Someone gets mocked in public. The ordinary response is quick. Defend yourself. Explain. Fight for dignity in front of the crowd. But this person doesn't flinch. They stand calm. Their silence more powerful than 1,000 words. That refusal to take the bait is not weakness. It is precision. It is mindful indifference at work. And in that silence, the crowd sees something rare, strength that needs no validation. This is the superpower of indifference, not apathy, not cold detachment, but clarity. It is the ability to separate ego from essence, to know when defending yourself is about truth and when it is only about pride. When ego is silent, dignity speaks louder. Consider how many battles in life are fought over nothing, a thoughtless comment online, a careless remark from a coworker, a misunderstanding that will be forgotten by morning. Yet people throw away their calm, spill their energy, and walk home exhausted, wounded by words that had no real weight. The Stoic chooses differently. He pauses, he measures, he asks, will this matter in 5 years? And if not, he lets it fall. That pause is power. That silence is victory. Think of Epictetus, who lived as a slave before becoming one of history's great teachers. He taught, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Do you see the fire in that? He understood that reputation in the minds of others is fragile, shifting, never truly yours. To chase it is to starve your soul. To release it is to walk free. Look closely at those who have built lives of meaning, not quick fame, but durable legacies. They didn't reach their heights by chasing gossip or explaining themselves to every critic. They chose to care deeply about the few things that matter: their craft, their discipline, their mission. Everything else was noise. And because they focused, because they carried the strength to be unmoved, they created what others could only dream of. So how do you build this superpower in your own life? Start by observing your reactions. The next time irritation rises, jealousy, frustration, anxiety over something trivial, pause. Ask, does this help me grow? Does this align with my values? Almost always the answer is no. That single pause breaks the cycle. It teaches your nervous system that not every spark deserves a flame. Then set your internal priorities. What truly matters to you? Is it your integrity, your peace, your mission? Keep these at the center, and everything else begins to fade. Distractions lose their teeth. Criticism loses its sting. You stop being tugged in every direction by people who never carried your burden. You begin to live on your own terms. Think of a craftsman shaping stone. Each strike is deliberate. He ignores the dust, the noise, the small chips flying. He has eyes only for the form he's creating. That is how you must carry yourself. Mindful indifference trains you to conserve energy for what builds you, not for what drains you. And here is the deeper shift. The more you strengthen your self-worth, the less you need the world to confirm it. When you know who you are, you don't flinch when questioned. You don't crumble when criticized. You don't explain yourself to those who were never truly listening. Ironically, this very detachment attracts respect. People notice not because you fought for their approval, but because you didn't. Mindful indifference is the bedrock of resilience. It keeps you from being dragged into every drama, every rumor, every glance of disapproval. It leaves you with energy to focus, space to breathe, clarity to build. In a world addicted to reaction, the one who is unmoved holds the real power. So no, you are not here to please everyone. You are not here to chase applause or prove yourself to those who misunderstand you. You're here to live deliberately, to speak when it matters, to act with purpose, to stay rooted when the crowd sways. And when you practice this, when you master the art of mindful indifference, you don't just survive distractions, you transcend them. You rise above the games and the noise. You stand firm while others scramble for validation. And in that steadiness, you gain something rare: control of yourself. This is what it means to walk the Stoic path. To care fiercely about the right things and let the rest fall away. And from here, the path deepens still further. For once you learn to detach from the trivial, you begin to discover that stillness itself is the ultimate source of strength. Stay with me. Entering the fourth chapter, imagine the weight of waiting for someone else to tell you you're enough. A compliment, a nod of approval, a quick reassurance that you're on the right path. For a moment it feels good, but then the silence comes, and with it, doubt. The applause fades, and you're left wondering who you are without it. That is the trap, building your peace on borrowed voices. Here's where the truth strikes hardest. The moment your worth depends on another person's opinion, you've surrendered your freedom. Seeking approval is more than tiring. It is quiet slavery. You bend yourself to fit into molds not built for you. You become a reflection of expectations instead of the architect of your own identity. Think of the people you truly admire, not for their popularity, but for their presence. They don't shrink to fit the room. They don't twist their truth to win applause. They walk their path with clarity, fully aware that not everyone will understand them. And that is precisely what makes them powerful. They are anchored in self-respect, not in the fleeting nods of others. The need for approval is fed by fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of walking alone. But pleasing everyone guarantees one outcome: you will lose yourself. Piece by piece, compromise by compromise, your voice softens until it is no longer yours. And then one day, you look in the mirror and realize the life you're living was never your choice at all. Freedom begins the moment you stop chasing acceptance. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that people will always have opinions, grateful, ungrateful, harsh, or kind. Their judgments are their own, not yours to carry. You cannot live freely if every decision must first pass through someone else's approval. Ask yourself honestly, whose opinion truly matters? Often the loudest critics are those who've never walked your path, who speak from the sidelines, untouched by your battles. Their judgments carry no weight unless you choose to believe them, and in that choice lies your power. Start here, validate yourself. Look at how far you've come. Recall the storms you've endured, the nights you thought you wouldn't make it through but did. Celebrate your progress, even if no one else sees it. When you begin to recognize your own worth, external applause loses its grip. You no longer need the world to notice what you already know. This is not arrogance. It is integrity. It is refusing to negotiate your identity. It is standing where you are without apology. You stop explaining your dreams to those who lack the vision to see them. You stop shrinking so others feel more comfortable. Instead, you speak truthfully, move steadily, and carry yourself with a certainty that doesn't beg to be understood. Yes, there will be resistance. There will be those who try to pull you back into conformity, who dismiss your choices, who misunderstand your path. But that's the price of freedom. Approval is not the currency of peace. It is the chain you must break to earn it. Once you stop needing everyone to agree with you, your world opens. You act not from fear, but from conviction, not to impress, but to fulfill. Consider the rebels, the innovators, the quiet leaders who shaped history. They did not spend their lives trying to fit in. They were not consumed by being liked. They were consumed by their purpose. Their eyes were fixed on the fire within them, not the noise around them. And because of that, they became immune to shallow praise or careless criticism. They understood what few dare to accept. When your path is aligned with your principles, you don't need permission, you only need persistence. So choose yourself, not just in theory, but in action. Speak like someone who trusts their own voice. Move like someone who honors their values. Decide like someone who no longer waits for clapping hands to continue walking. That is how you become untouchable, not because critics vanish, but because their words lose the power to define you. And something shifts when you live this way. You carry a presence that cannot be bought, cannot be faked. People respect you not because you asked them to, but because you didn't. They see the quiet conviction of someone who is free, and freedom is magnetic. This is what happens when you stop seeking approval and start living with self-acceptance. You become steady in a way few understand. You build a life that is yours, not theirs, and you step into a strength that grows sharper with every choice you make for yourself. At this stage, the lesson is clear. When you no longer need others to grant you permission, your voice carries farther, your steps land firmer, and your presence commands more than applause ever could. And from this foundation, we move into the next principle, how stillness, not reaction, becomes your most commanding response. Stay with me. From here, let's walk into one of the most relentless tests life will throw at you: Criticism. It arrives like an unexpected knock at the door, sometimes gentle, sometimes sharp, often unwelcome. A careless remark, a raised eyebrow, a whispered doubt, and suddenly your confidence feels fragile. Why is that? Because too often we treat criticism like a verdict instead of what it really is: noise. Picture this. You're building something that matters to you. You've poured hours, energy, and heart into it. Then someone, often on the sidelines, says, "That's pointless. That'll never work." Their words echo louder than your progress. For a moment, you question everything. But pause. Ask yourself, do those words carry truth? Or are they shadows cast from someone else's fears? Most of the time, it's the latter. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." He understood that the sting of criticism lies not in the words themselves, but in how we receive them. Words only become wounds when we hand them the blade. Criticism is not the enemy. Our reaction to it is. Now, imagine a sculptor working on stone. Day after day, he chisels, shaping what no one else yet sees. Passers-by stop. Some admire his patience. Some offer genuine advice. Others laugh, mocking the dust and noise, unable to recognize the form taking shape. But the sculptor doesn't stop to argue. He doesn't abandon his craft to silence scoffers. He continues, steady, because he trusts his vision. That is how you must face criticism. Discerning, grounded, unwilling to be derailed by voices that cannot see your path. Not all criticism is equal. Some comes from people who want you to grow. Their words may sting, but they carry insight. That's constructive criticism. It's a gift. Then there is destructive criticism, comments designed to weaken, to belittle, to project another person's frustration onto you. The Stoic learns to tell the difference. Listen when the words come from someone who has walked the road, someone who carries experience and goodwill. But when it comes from envy, ignorance, or spite, let it fall like dead leaves from a tree. Ask yourself each time, does this person know enough to guide me? Have they earned the right to shape my perspective? If yes, take the lesson. If not, move on. Their words have no weight unless you choose to carry them. Epictetus said, "If someone speaks badly of you, do not defend yourself against their accusations, but reply, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned only these.'" Hidden in that dry wit is a liberating truth. You don't need to fight every critic. You don't need to defend every choice. When you respond with calm indifference, you reveal a strength that arguments cannot touch. History is full of examples. Every thinker, creator, and leader worth remembering was criticized, their ideas doubted, their character attacked, their motives twisted, yet they endured. Criticism didn't stop them, it refined them, because they understood something simple. Criticism is the price of progress. If no one is questioning you, you are likely doing nothing of consequence. So how do you master this mindset? Begin with stillness. When someone criticizes you, pause. Don't fire back. Don't let emotion take the wheel. Simply observe. Ask, is this useful? Does this reveal something I must face? If yes, take it in and adjust. If not, discard it. Your peace is too valuable to waste on noise. Another tool is inner conviction. When you are clear about why you do what you do, criticism loses its grip. You don't move forward because everyone agrees. You move forward because you know why you began. Conviction rooted in purpose is stronger than reassurance. It keeps you steady when the voices rise against you. Think of yourself as a mountain. Winds may howl, storms may batter, but the mountain does not shrink to meet their demands. It endures, shaped only by time and intention, not by every passing gust. That's what it means to carry inner conviction. The world will always have something to say. Some will cheer, some will mock, most will misunderstand. That is their role, not your burden. You don't owe them an explanation. You owe yourself a life of courage and clarity. So, the next time words fly your way, remember, it is just noise. Learn if you can. Ignore if you must. But never let another person's passing judgment become your permanent identity. And here's something simple I ask of you. If this message resonates, if you felt the sting of criticism and are ready to rise above it, subscribe for more Stoic insights and leave a single word in the comments. Unshaken. That word alone is enough to remind you what we're building together. Not silence from the world, but strength within ourselves. At this stage, you see the shift. Criticism no longer has the power to wound unless you hand it the blade. And from this foundation of stillness and self-respect, we step into the next lesson, where presence, not explanation, becomes your truest source of power. Stay with me. At this stage, let us face one of life's most honest mirrors: pressure. It doesn't lie, it doesn't flatter. It strips away the mask and shows exactly who you are when the weight is on your shoulders. Some people crack the moment the heat rises, others freeze, paralyzed by fear. But those who have trained their minds, those who have made peace with the certainty of storms, remain steady, composed, unshaken. Why? Because they stopped expecting life to be gentle. They understood long ago that adversity is not an exception, it is the rule. And when you accept this truth, pressure stops being a threat. It becomes a test you're ready to meet. The Stoics never told us to run from hardship. They taught us to expect it, even to welcome it. Seneca wrote of rehearsing misfortunes in advance so that when they arrived, they would sting less. To him, pressure was not punishment, but preparation. Chaos, setbacks, uncertainty, these things don't come to break you. They come to shape you. But the shaping only happens if you choose your response wisely. Most people collapse under pressure because they cling to the illusion of control. They want everything smooth, predictable, easy, and when reality refuses to play along, they panic. But the one who expects resistance is never surprised by it. He is ready, not because he can stop the storm, but because he has trained to move within it. Picture a seasoned warrior entering battle. He doesn't step in expecting calm. He expects confusion, ambushes, sudden danger. Yet he advances with focus, not because the battlefield is safe, but because he has rehearsed his composure long before the fight. This is the mindset we must cultivate. Life will bring pressure. That much is certain. The only uncertainty is whether you will fold or focus. The Stoic knows that composure is not denial. It is not pretending that nothing is wrong. It is refusing to let the external dictate the internal. You cannot control the storm, but you can control your breath. You cannot silence the noise, but you can sharpen your focus. With practice, pressure becomes less of an intruder and more of a rhythm you've grown familiar with. You don't fight it, you flow with it. Look at those who lead in crisis. The calm voice in the room while others shout. The steady presence that slows down time when panic spreads. Their composure isn't luck, it is training. It is the result of refusing to rely on hope. They did not cross their fingers and wish life would be kind. They prepared for the day it wasn't. And so, when that day arrived, they stood. That preparation begins with perspective. Stop seeing pressure as an attack. Start seeing it as your proving ground. Each challenge is a chance to refine your discipline, to practice detachment from panic, to choose clarity over impulse. Pressure is not there to destroy you. It is there to reveal you. Another part of preparation is rehearsal. The strongest individuals do not wait until disaster strikes to find their balance. They practice it in advance. They imagine the worst-case scenarios. They condition themselves to respond rather than react. So when the moment arrives, it feels strangely familiar. Their mind does not scatter. Their body does not drown in fear. Instead, they lock into focus, as if saying, "I've been here before. You can do this too." Start small. The next time something stresses you, a delay, a disagreement, an inconvenience, pause. Don't let impulse take over. Observe yourself. Breathe deeply. Then ask, what does this moment truly require of me? Not from my emotions, but from my principles. That pause is where composure is built. With repetition, it becomes instinct. Remember this: those who panic under pressure are often the ones who relied on hope instead of discipline. They wished life would go their way, and when it didn't, they broke. But the one who trains for adversity doesn't need life to be smooth. He remains grounded whether the ground beneath him is firm or shaking. The key is simple but hard. Understand that the world owes you no comfort. It will send you delays, failures, betrayals, not to punish, but to ask, what are you made of? Your answer must not be panic. It must be poise, quiet strength, stillness in motion. While others complain, you calculate. While others scatter, you return to your center. So when pressure builds, don't beg for it to disappear. Let it arrive. Let it sharpen you. Let it bring forward the stillness you've rehearsed. But you will remain standing, not because chaos spared you, but because you moved through it with discipline. That is the reward of composure. To meet life's fiercest tests and walk away unshaken. And from this strength, we move to the final lesson. How letting go of outcomes unlocks the deepest freedom of all. Stay with me. Advancing to the 7th chapter, imagine standing at the edge of a river. The current moves swiftly, bending around rocks, rushing past fallen branches. You reach down and try to force the water to change direction, to flow the way you want. Your hands tighten, your arms strain, but the river doesn't listen. It moves as it always has, forward, indifferent to your struggle. That is what life is like when we cling to control. The more we grip, the more it slips through us. Here's where most suffering begins. Not in the events themselves, but in the resistance. We hold on to what we think should happen. We script outcomes in our minds, and when reality writes a different story, we call it pain. But the Stoics knew better. Epictetus said, "Some things are in our control and others not." That single line can free a lifetime of frustration if you're willing to live by it. Think about your last disappointment. Perhaps a friend let you down. Perhaps an opportunity closed. Perhaps the timing simply didn't align. Did you spiral, replaying the moment, wishing it different? Or did you stop and ask the harder question, was this ever mine to control? If the answer is no, then your suffering was not in the event. It was in your refusal to let go. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. He did not mean surrender to passivity. He meant align yourself with reality, because fighting it only breaks you. Life flows like that river. It bends, it twists, it moves on. It doesn't argue with obstacles, it adapts, and so must we. Letting go is not giving up. It is redirecting your energy to what is truly yours, your thoughts, your actions, your principles. When your happiness depends on a job offer, on someone else's affection, on a perfect outcome, you've built a fragile kind of peace. It lasts only as long as the world cooperates. But the world does not exist to cooperate. Real strength comes when your center rests in things no one can take from you. Look at those who remain calm when life turns. They don't freeze, they don't rage, they adapt. They still love, still strive, still care deeply. But they no longer demand that life obey their script. It isn't indifference, it's clarity sharpened by wisdom. Detachment, properly understood, is not the absence of caring, it is the presence of clarity. Think of the craftsman who works on wood. He selects his tools carefully, he carves, sands, polishes. But the grain of the wood is not his to command. He can work with it or break his tools against it. The wise craftsman doesn't curse the grain. He adjusts. That is letting go. You can train this mindset daily. Start small. When traffic stalls, when lines stretch longer than expected, when plans shift suddenly, pause. Instead of tightening, breathe. Ask, is this worth disturbing my peace? Almost always the answer will be no. Each time you release control of the uncontrollable, you strengthen your ability to remain free in larger storms. Your nervous system learns to stop clinging. Your spirit learns to trust. Letting go also means seeing people clearly. Some will leave, some will disappoint. Some will never meet your expectations. You cannot control their choices. You can only control your response. You can still love them, still wish them well, but you do not need to suffer because they chose a different path. Peace does not come from possession, it comes from freedom. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." How much of your pain is replaying scenarios in your mind, demanding that they should have gone another way? Letting go is the decision to stop dragging the river upstream, to stop rehearsing alternate outcomes, to live in the clarity of what is, not the fantasy of what should have been. And don't mistake detachment for apathy. Letting go is not caring less. It is caring wisely. You can still love fully, still dream boldly, still strive with everything you have. But you stop tying your joy to the exact outcome. You give your best and then release the rest. You show up with courage, but you refuse to collapse when the result is different from what you imagined. That is true resilience. Imagine walking into a storm. The wind pushes against you. The rain lashes your face. You could curse it, fight it, scream for the sky to change, but the storm doesn't care. The wiser path is to adjust your stride, lower your head, and keep moving. That is what it means to let go. To accept reality not with bitterness, but with calm persistence. So when life doesn't unfold as you planned, don't resist it. Don't spend your energy dragging the river. Accept, adapt, trust that you can handle whatever comes. Because once you release the illusion of control, something remarkable happens. Life becomes lighter, your focus sharpens, your energy pours into what actually belongs to you, and no setback, no betrayal, no twist of fate can touch the strength you've built there. At this stage, the lesson is clear. Letting go is not weakness. It is freedom. It is clarity. It is the quiet strength of a soul no longer chained to outcomes. And from that freedom, we step forward into the next principle, where silence itself becomes the most powerful response you carry. Entering the 8th chapter, picture a crowded room buzzing with voices. Everyone talks over one another, eager to be heard, desperate to fill the air. But then someone falls quiet. They don't rush. They don't scramble for attention. They simply sit, composed. And suddenly the room shifts. Eyes turn toward them, not because they demanded attention, but because their silence commanded it. In a world addicted to noise, silence unsettles. It interrupts the rhythm people expect. Most speak because they fear the weight of quiet. They fill space to prove they belong, to patch their insecurities, to chase validation. But the truly powerful, they don't waste words. They don't chase reactions. They speak only when it matters, and because of that, every word lands like a stone dropped into still water. The Stoics understood this long before us. Silence is not emptiness. It is strength. It is the discipline of staying rooted when others try to pull you into reaction. Words reveal. But silence conceals, and within that concealment lies influence. Consider this: someone insults you in public. They expect anger, defense, retaliation. They want to feed off your reaction, but you remain still. You breathe, unmoved, offering no words. In that moment, they are forced to sit with their own poison. They begin to doubt themselves, to question their standing. The crowd doesn't remember the insult. They remember your composure. That silence became your shield and your statement. Imagine another scene, a negotiation. The other side makes an offer and waits for a quick reply. Instead of rushing, you pause. You allow silence to stretch. Unease grows on their faces. They talk more, sweeten the deal, expose their own urgency. You didn't lift your voice. You didn't force the moment. Your silence became leverage. This is not manipulation. It is presence. It is the discipline of choosing not to act from impulse, but from clarity. Silence unsettles because it shifts the balance of power. When you don't respond right away, others adjust to you. They fill the gap. They reveal themselves. The one who listens sees more than the one who rushes to speak. While they scatter words, you gather information. You notice the tremor in a voice, the glance avoided, the contradiction hidden in sentences. Most miss these signs because they're too busy performing. Silence makes you the one who observes, and therefore the one who understands. Seneca once said, "It is a great thing to know the season for speech and the season for silence. The wisdom lies not in speaking always, nor in holding back always, but in knowing when each has power." Silence is not withdrawal. It is precision. It is using your words like a craftsman, not like a machine. Think about the people whose presence lingers in a room. They are rarely the loudest. They rarely compete for attention. Instead, they wait. They watch. And when they finally speak, every head turns, because the silence before their words carved out the space for meaning. Presence, not volume, makes them powerful. You can begin to build this power in your own life. In your next conversation, resist the urge to fill every pause. Let the silence stand. Notice how others lean forward, how they reveal more of themselves when you don't rush to reply. Practice restraint not as a tactic, but as a habit of self-mastery. Because silence is not about withholding speech. It is about controlling it. And when emotions surge, silence becomes your shield. In anger, stay silent. In moments of provocation, stay silent. Silence spares you from words you'll regret. It gives you the breath to choose, the space to return to reason. The tongue is often the quickest weapon and the one that cuts deepest. But silence is armor. It blocks the blow before it is struck. Over time, this discipline reshapes you. You stop reacting to every provocation. You stop explaining yourself to those who were never listening. You stop defending choices that need no defense. Your silence becomes your statement, and the world adjusts around it. People begin to respect not just what you say, but what you choose not to say. Think of it this way: the loud are predictable, the silent are unreadable, and what cannot be read cannot be controlled. Silence makes you untouchable, not because you have no words, but because you know their worth. The lesson here is not to abandon speech, but to elevate it. To let your silence create space, sharpen your awareness, and anchor your presence. In a noisy world, silence is rebellion. It is composure. It is command. So when the room grows loud, let others clamor for attention. You remain steady. When provoked, let others demand reaction. You remain silent. And when the time finally comes to speak, your words will echo, not because you shouted, but because your silence made them weighty. This is where true influence is built, not through endless words, but through the quiet strength no one can shake. And from here, we move into the next lesson: how presence, not perfection, is the mark of real power. At this stage, let's step onto the true battlefield, not the world, not the opinions of others, not even the storms of circumstance, but the space between your own ears. That small stretch of ground, your mind, is where every victory or defeat begins. Each thought you entertain is a soldier you send into combat. Some fight for your strength, others fight against it. Doubt, fear, frustration, these are not enemies to run from. They are opponents to be met daily, tested daily, defeated daily. The strongest among us are not those who never feel these things. They are the ones who refuse to be ruled by them. They feel the fear, but still move forward. They hear the whisper of doubt, but do not bow to it. They notice the rising flame of anger, but do not hand it the torch. That is strength. That is training. Now imagine a warrior on the field. He doesn't win because he wishes for skill. He wins because he trains for it. Day after day, repetition after repetition, discipline hardens him. The mind is no different. You cannot expect calm in a storm if you never rehearsed it in the stillness. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your preparation. And if you have not trained your mind to pause, to observe, to stay composed, you will crumble when it matters most. The Stoics believed peace is not the absence of hardship, but the ability to remain centered within it. That centering does not appear on its own. It is carved into you by habit. Gratitude to soften bitterness. Discipline to resist impulse. Detachment to reduce unnecessary pain. None of these are gifts. They are practices. And like all practices, they grow stronger with repetition. Think of the small choices. Waking up when you'd rather stay in bed. Holding your tongue when anger itches to escape. Finishing what you promised when your motivation has vanished. These are the invisible weights that build your mental muscle. Each time you choose purpose over impulse, you lay another brick in the fortress of your mind. And in time, that fortress becomes unshakable. Picture the mind like a muscle. Resistance is required for growth. When you keep moving, though exhausted. When you are disrespected, yet remain composed. When the world feels chaotic, but you stand grounded, that is training. Over time, training becomes identity. You no longer try to stay calm. You are calm, not as a performance, but as a natural state. Detachment is one of the most powerful mental drills. Not because it makes you cold, but because it makes you free. When you stop tying your peace to outcomes, you stop placing your happiness in the hands of chance. You can care deeply and strive fiercely, yet remain unbroken if results shift. That is not indifference. That is freedom. Now imagine a storm rolling in. The wind snaps branches, the rain lashes hard, the sky darkens. Most people are tossed, frantic, reacting to every gust. But the Stoic, the one who has trained his mind, stands like a rooted tree. He doesn't waste energy demanding the sky change. He doesn't panic as the rain falls. He lets the storm pass because he knows storms always do. This is the mindset forged through daily training. Calm, not as reaction, but as being. And here is where discipline enters. Not the loud kind that others applaud, but the quiet kind that no one notices. The kind that shows up when it's easier not to. The kind that keeps you on the path when excuses whisper in your ear. The mind, left unchecked, will always choose comfort. It will look for shortcuts. That is why most people drift. But when you discipline yourself to choose focus over ease, consistency over indulgence, you reshape your mental architecture. You move differently, with weight, with intention. Start simple. Meditate, not to escape, but to sharpen awareness. Train your body, not just for strength, but for willpower. Read, not just for knowledge, but to stretch your mind beyond its limits. And above all, keep the promises you make to yourself, even the smallest ones, especially the smallest ones, because each kept promise builds trust within you, and trust in yourself is the foundation of unshakable calm. Life will not stop testing you. People will not stop pressing your patience. Circumstances will not stop trying to pull you off center. But when your mind has been trained in the quiet hours, you will not collapse in the storm. You will walk through it with a composure others may notice, but never fully understand. And when someone asks, "How do you stay so calm?" you will know the truth. You didn't hope for it. You didn't fake it. You trained for it. And because you trained, no one can take it away from you. From here, with the foundation of a mind disciplined and unshaken, we step into the final principle, the way true strength reveals itself, not in noise, but in a focused and purposeful life. Advancing to the final chapter, picture a craftsman in a dim workshop. Day after day, he hammers, sands, and shapes. No one knows what he's building. He doesn't speak of it. He doesn't show half-finished pieces to prove his progress. He simply works. And then, one day, the doors open and the world sees a masterpiece. No announcement, no performance, just results that cannot be ignored. That is the art of moving in silence. Real strength does not announce itself. It doesn't need to. It moves deliberately, leaving no trail of self-promotion, only outcomes. The Stoics understood this with clarity. Seneca wrote, "Work in silence. Let success make the noise. Power that seeks recognition is fragile. Power that works quietly is unshakable." Yet today, noise has become currency. Everyone is declaring their plans, their dreams, their next big move. But the louder you speak before you act, the weaker your intentions become. Because words, once spoken, invite resistance. They attract scrutiny. And they tempt you to depend on reactions to fuel your drive. The more you talk, the less you own. Those who are truly strong don't need to explain themselves. They don't announce every ambition or defend every choice. They don't seek applause mid-journey. They act. They execute. And when the work is finished, it speaks so loudly that no words are required. Think of history's most influential figures. They weren't the ones constantly broadcasting their next step. They weren't consumed with proving themselves to those who lacked vision. They focused on action, not validation. And because of that, their legacies remain. They trusted the truth Marcus Aurelius lived by. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. B1. Contrast that with those who cannot resist announcing everything. They dilute their power. They give away their direction. They invite judgment that was never necessary. And worst of all, they begin relying on outside attention to sustain their effort. The moment you need recognition to stay motivated, you've already surrendered control. Silence, then, is not passivity. It is strategy. It forces others to wonder, to speculate, to fill in the blanks. In that mystery lies strength. When people don't know your next move, they can't block it. When they can't predict your path, they can't interfere. The less they know, the more untouchable you become. Even in conversation, silence shifts the balance. The one who listens more, who chooses words sparingly, always holds the advantage. Because while others reveal themselves, you remain concealed. They scatter their energy in speech. You gather yours in restraint. That is not hiding. That is refinement. Consider a simple exercise. The next time you feel the urge to explain your plans, to defend your progress, to prove your vision, pause. Ask yourself, who am I trying to convince, them or myself? That urge often rises from insecurity, from the craving to be seen before the work is ready. But true strength has no need to prove. If your work is real, it will show. Every time you choose silence over noise, intention over impulse, you fortify your center, you protect your energy, you stop handing out pieces of your vision to those unfit to hold them. You stop letting others' opinions pollute your clarity, and in that stillness, you find freedom. Discipline is the core of this art. It is not easy to remain quiet when you're excited. It is tempting to share every breakthrough, every milestone. But discipline reminds you that not everyone deserves access to your process. Not every moment must be documented. Silence becomes the shield that guards your growth. Understand this clearly. Silence is not isolation. It is not secrecy for its own sake. It is selectivity. It is intentionality. It is sharing with the few who've earned your trust, while protecting the sacredness of what you're building. It is choosing to focus more on becoming than performing. So when you feel the pull to announce your next step, resist. When you want to prove yourself to doubters, resist. When you are tempted to explain your vision to those who cannot see, resist. Let silence hold your plans. Let your results do the speaking. Let the world wonder how you did it. Because mastery does not shout. It does not clamor for recognition. It doesn't need to. The ones who rise are not the loudest. They are the ones who show up daily, quietly, relentlessly, until their work is undeniable. Noise chases attention. Silence builds presence. While others seek to appear powerful, you focus on becoming powerful. That is the Stoic way. That is quiet strength. And now you carry it with you. When you live anchored in calm, you need no approval. Subscribe for more strength. Comment, steady calm, and remember, your peace is your unshakable power. More awaits next.